Okay, welcome everyone. So this is the second edition of our bi-weekly series on online panel discussions. So today we have gathered here to discuss the recently released NIRF rankings from HRD Ministry. So it was on 11th June this month. We saw a great deal of fanfare on social media. There were hashtags NIRF 2020. There were hashtags IISc Bangalore trending on Twitter throughout the day. So such was the excitement of these rankings. So let me give a brief introduction of what these rankings are about. These rankings grade higher education institutes in India. They rank these institutes, and these rankings were released for 10 different categories of institutes. We have separate university rankings, a separate ranking for engineering institutes, a separate ranking from medical dental institutes, and then we had an overall rank given to each of the institutes. And today we have guests in our panel from IIT Kanpur. We have guests from Aligarh Muslim University. So for the information of our viewers, and it is a matter of record, that IIT Kanpur has been placed rank 6th in the overall category. It has been placed 4th in engineering category, and it has been placed 16th in the management category. So likewise, we have a guest from Aligarh Muslim University. Aligarh Muslim University has been placed, this year it has been placed at 31st rank in the overall category, 17th in university categories. This is the same category in which Islamic University of Science and Technology has been placed in the bracket of 150 to 200. That's what we'll be discussing tonight. And AMU is 39th in engineering and 45th in management. So this was just for the information of our viewers. And when the ranking was released, it has instilled a sense of competition among all the participating institutes. And apart from a sense of competition, it has also instilled a sense of confidence among those institutes which are featuring in this ranking for the very first time. And Islamic University of Science and Technology is one such institute which has been featured in the rankings for the first time. So it gives us some confidence and also some sense of competition. So the institutes were assessed based on 5 parameters. Our panelists will elaborate on this. The 5 parameters are teaching, learning, and resources, number 1. Another one, we have research and professional practice. Then we have graduation outcomes. Then we have outreach and inclusivity. There are some sub-parameters also. And the last one is perception. And there are different weightages given to each of these parameters. So this is what we'll be discussing with our panel tonight. So my colleague, Mr. Arif, may you please proceed with introducing our guests for this discussion.
Good evening, everybody. You're welcome to the IUST Alumni Council discussion. Today we are joined by Professor Neeraj Misra. Professor Misra has a PhD in statistics and mathematics. PhD in statistics from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, where he is currently working as professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics. Apart from holding a permanent position at the IIT, he has also held various academic positions at some other universities, which include the Catholic University of Belgium, Punjab University, and the West Virginia University, USA. He has also served as Dean of Academic Affairs, IIT Kanpur. Apart from Professor Misra, we have Dr. Ayaz Hassan Moon as well with us. He is currently serving as Professor and Dean at the School of Technology, IUST. Earlier, he has served as Scientist G and the Executive Director of National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology, Srinagar, Jammu. Apart from that, he has also been a chief investigator for many of the IECT projects, most recent being the Smart Class project, small class project of the J&K Education Department. Besides, we are also joined by Professor Sufyan Beg, who also has a PhD degree in the area of computer technology from IIT Delhi and is currently working as professor at the Department of Computer Engineering at Aligarh Muslim University. He's also serving as the principal of the ZH College of Engineering and Technology since August 2015. Apart from this, we have Mr. Akif Mufti, who happens to be an alumni and a cohort of IUST. Akif is currently working as a researcher in the cybersecurity and teaming research lab at the University of Toledo. His research involves the security of unmanned aerial systems, game theory, and bio-inspired algorithms.
Okay, thank you, Arib. This was a brief introduction of our guests who have joined us tonight. So before moving on to the actual discussion, I would like to give a minute to Professor Moon to formally greet the guests and give a brief background of Islamic University of Science and Technology.
Assalamu alaikum. Hassan, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be present today on this discourse. I am extremely pleased to network with Professor Sufyan Ali Beg Sahab, who has been often coming to university and guiding us on various issues related to academics and research. And I am again, thankful to Professor Misra, who took time of his busy schedule to be part of this discourse. And not the least to express my pleasure about having one of the alumni of IUST, Dr. Mufti, to be on the panel. So welcome you all. Before actually we start talking about the NIRF ranking, let me say in the beginning that it has been a great matter of privilege and pleasure that IUST ranked for the first time in the NIRF ranking under general university category. We have been placed between 150 to 200 slot. We could have done better, but anyway, this is a good beginning. IUST has been established in 2005 through a J&K State Legislature Act, and it actually started functioning from 2006, June 2006. Now, if you count between 2006 and 2020, that makes it 13, 14 years. In the history of any education institutions, particularly university, 13, 14 years are not much where, I mean, you have old universities which run into centuries. So out and out, IUST has been a technology-driven university. It operates, within 5 schools. At the moment, you have School of Engineering and Technology, School of Business Management, School of Humanities and Sciences, School of Basic Sciences, and School of Health Sciences. And there would be around 18 to 19 departments as the components of these schools. Every year, it admits around 1,500 students. Most of it are actually admitted to the School of Engineering and Technology. School of Engineering and Technology constitutes the major component of IUST. I'm looking forward to today's interaction. I should not be treated as a guest. I'm very much, in the team of the hosts. So I'll be looking forward to, listening to what Professor Beg has to say, what Professor Misra has to say, and what our own alumni, Dr. Mufti, has to say about IUST, and so that we are able to draw, some kind of a roadmap for IUST, so that inshallah next time, when we compete both as a university as well as in the engineering category, we hit the top spots. Thank you very much. Over to us.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Professor Moon. We'll start with Professor Misra. To begin with, first of all, I would like to congratulate Professor Misra for IIT Kanpur consistently featuring in the top domestic and international rankings. Professor Misra, I would like to ask you about the NIRF rankings we have adopted. Foreign universities usually adopt the QS or the Times Higher Quotient Education Ranking System, the THE. But the 7 leading IITs, including IIT-K, have decided not to participate in THE ranking this year. Why is this reservation? How do we compare the NIRF with the QS or THE? Should we go global or institutionalize or internationalize NIRF somehow?
So first of all, let me congratulate IUST for making it to the NIRF ranking. Considering that it's a new institute, just 15 years of existence, it has come very nicely. So congratulations on that part. Now, I am not a part of policy making of IIT Kanpur regarding its participation in THE ranking. So it may not be appropriate for me to comment on that. But I would like to make a few of my observations. How should one take these rankings? You see, whether one likes it or doesn't like it, this NIRF ranking or other kind of rankings are going to be there. And the perception about the institute is going to be based on these rankings. One may like some of those parameters, the way they are being assessed, but they are going to remain. So it's important that we all consider these rankings very carefully, each of the institutes. Now, the few of things which can be immediately done by any institute, one is regarding the research output. One has to see if somebody is lacking, a particular institute is lacking on certain aspect, it has to do a proper introspection, how it can do better next time. And I believe with not much efforts, you would see that there would be few places, for example, the kind of journals where faculty members would be publishing, the intake of number of PhD students. So these are few things which has to look at very carefully, very minutely, that how they contribute to the overall ranking. And one has to do some kind of a data analysis to look, if we have worked this way, our ranking would have improved significantly. Second thing is about the perception. Now, perception normally takes longer time to be established. So it cannot be just done in a year or so. But there should be a continued effort in that direction. And regarding perception, the alumni is the best pool you have, which creates a good perception about the institute, because they have been the direct beneficiary of your educational system. So somehow the involvement of alumni has to be there. They have to be actively involved in as far as perception is concerned. So this is all I'll add for the time being, and then in the process I'll give a time to others so that then I will chip in between wherever it is required.
Sure, Professor Misra. That was very encouraging. We'll get back to you on this. I would like to turn to Professor Sufyan Beg. Professor Sufyan Beg, first of all, congratulations. AMU has been faring quite well in different categories of rankings. So I would like to ask you, AMU has been faring well both in domestic as well as international rankings, whether it be the QS rankings or be the NIRF rankings. And recently, if we check the QS rankings for the year 2020, AMU has been placed in the bracket of 801 to 1000 in the university rankings. So I guess this is quite commendable. What factors do you think significantly contribute to this upward trajectory of AMU, given that it has a long history?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. And let me reciprocate the congratulations that you have extended to AMU by saying that it is really commendable. Professor Moon was saying that you started your university in 2005, but still you are able to make in the top 200 institutes of India. That is really commendable. I must congratulate you for that. Now, coming to the issue of rankings, you see, to me, rankings are the means to the end. They are not the end in itself. We shouldn't be beating the bush about the ranking too much. It should come on the way. We should focus on our research. We should focus on our consultancy. We should focus on our, producing quality graduates and so on and so forth. And ranking would come on the way. And for that, we should take ourselves to beat. Rather than competing with others, we should have ourselves to beat. Over here, I'll narrate a small, anecdote. I had been a postdoc at the University of California at Berkeley, which is, one of the top universities in the world. So over there, one of my friends, he defended he submitted his PhD thesis. So I congratulated him, and then I asked him, where is your PhD thesis going to be evaluated at? Which university is this going to be sent? I mean, that is the usual trend in India. You submit your PhD thesis, it goes to other universities to be evaluated. He looked at me in an astonishing, stare. And then he said, we submitted, my board accepted at the University of California at Berkeley. That is it. Who is going to evaluate the PhD thesis of University of California at Berkeley? So, they have their own selves to beat rather than looking at others, what they're doing. Also, there is one very good thing that I've come across. Have we ever thought why Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley? I'll just give you like 10 seconds to ponder over it. Why Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley? The honest answer is Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley because Stanford and Berkeley are there. We all know the history of United States. The West Coast was all barren. All the universities were on the East Coast. The West Coast started prospering. The state of California started coming up only when these universities came up there. So all the top-notch companies like Google and Adobe and Facebook and you name it, Tesla, they're all on the West Coast simply because they are getting quality graduates from Berkeley and Stanford. Now, with regards to the institutes in India, including IITs, I'm sorry, Professor Misra, although I'm also an alumnus of IIT Kanpur, I did my master's from there, but I must apologize before saying that even the best institutes in India outside the boundary of IIT or IISc, a hawker doesn't know what this IIT is all about. So are we really, percolating the benefits of what all research is happening inside to the people outside? So we must think over it. And when it comes to, setting up the higher ranks, let us talk about the world rankings rather than the Indian rankings. Indian rankings would come on the way again, as I said in the beginning. So we should have a broad vision. And with that vision, we should proceed. And we should say, like 5 years down the line, we should be ranking in the top 200 institutes of the world when it comes to IUST. We can always, we have to aim for the sky, and then things will come on the way. Again, on the vision, I'll narrate a very interesting anecdote. I had a senior professor, although he was a professor of mechanical engineering. He had an old Fiat car when we were the students. And at the back of the car, there was a sticker which said, the sticker on the car said, when I grow up, I want to be a Rolls Royce. So you see the symbolism behind that sticker on that Fiat car. So why can't we think broad and wide and try to compete and rub shoulders with the best institutes in the world? So let me stop this first round at this point of time. The concrete steps I'll talk about when it comes in the second round, and let me give it back to Asim and his team to get back to us in the second round again. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bing, for putting a lot of things into perspective. We will most definitely take notice of that. For the time being, moving on to Professor Moon. Sir, you've been heading the School of Technology at IUST for about 3 years now. And actually, it's for the first time that our university has found a place in the NIRF ratings. How do you see this progress? Has it instilled confidence and a sense of competition among the IUST family, be it the staff, the students, and the support people, the administration?
Thank you. We had a beautiful insight by Professor Misra and Professor Sufyan Week already. Let me, be on a lighter note. When I say I thank Google, then WhatsApp, then Facebook, then Spark Notes, Xerox, cut, copy, and paste. And thank you for being what I am today. Now, these are not my words, but this is supposed to be the most, beautifully articulated graduate day speech, made by an American, when she was thanking everybody, except the institute from where she graduated, except the teachers who actually taught her, and except, mercifully, she didn't name her parents also. This is the kind of the scenario that we are into. A teacher has to, his presence has to be felt by the student. I mean, that's what is very important. And if you tell me the single most factor, what actually transformed IUST into a place that it is today, though there are miles to go still, I believe the university administration, and for which, the full credit goes to Honorable Vice Chancellor for the kind of dynamism, for the kind of vision, and for the kind of team spirit, that he has brought onto the camps. There's a team on the camps right now, and everybody feels part of that team. And credit for that goes to Honorable Vice Chancellor. Professor Sufyan Beg was speaking about his own experience. Let me also, go back to the past. I'm an alumni of Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, which, is always ranked, as one of the top universities in the country. I was sometimes wondering that what is there in IISc Bangalore that makes it the top institution? Is it the faculty? Is it the infrastructure? Is it the equipment? Is it the camps? I'll say everything. But if I had to point out the single most factor, I'll say it is the student of IISc, which actually drives and pushes the faculty to do the kind of the work which actually gets them the highest grade. I mean, imagine I was myself in a class of 20 students while doing my MTech, where there were 12 students who were university toppers. I mean, topper of Aligarh University, topper of Jadavpur University, topper of Marathwada University. Now, how can a person like me survive in that environment? There's absolutely no way. You have to work hard. Only then you can come up to the expectations. Then only, you can get your degrees. This kind of studentship has to be inculcated into the university system. As Professor Sufyan Beg rightly said, that when you change the standards, the ranking will automatically come. Now, I'll be a little bit specific as to what exactly happened in the last 2 to 3 years. That's why IST got into the ranking. First of all, normally the universities would like to add new programs and then increase the intake of the students. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor did exactly opposite. Opposite in the sense, he did introduce new programs, but then he slashed on the number of students. I'll be specific with School of Engineering and Technology, where the intake capacity was over 700 students across 7 branches. He cut it down to 470. There was a hue and cry, but then he had his own reasons as to why they are doing it. And that proved, a great merit in whatever we did. Similarly, the ratio that we have, I'm saying what helped us actually in getting this NIRF ranking. If you look at the gender ratio in IUST, it will be 50-50. In fact, in number of branches, it is the girl students who are outscoring the boys. It will be in their favor. So that's another important aspect which counts when you are looking at the NIRF ranking. Then if you look at the what kind of students is IUST attracting, apart from their merit, it's also addressing to the needs of economically weaker section students. It's addressing to the needs of educational and academic needs of the socially challenged students. Now, out of I'm talking about School of Engineering Technology, which has around 2,000 students, you'll find that 50% would belong to economically weaker sections. 50% would belong to socially challenged, sections. Similarly, I mean, look at the placements. Now, I'll go back because NIRF ranking counts the performance of last 3 years. I was looking at the university record, which they submitted for 16 and 17. Unfortunately, the record says that IUST has been able to place only 3 students. Now, that is surprising. How can IUST, with a pass out of 500 students, can place only 3 students? It says that from IUST, only 3 students have gone for higher education. Again, there's something drastically wrong with the records. Now, look at the records that we have furnished last year. We are saying that out of 496 students, 159 have been placed and 150 plus have gone to the institutions of higher ranking for getting their MTech degrees. So it makes, out of 496, around plus 300 students have either got their placements or they have gone into the institutions of eminence for getting their MTech degrees. And here I would like to mention the role played by Project Equip in transforming IUST, especially the engineering education. I'm specific with the engineering education. The amount of GATE qualifiers, I mean, previously IUST, about a couple of years back, used to have GATE qualifiers in the range of 15 to 20. Most of it would come from civil engineering department. Year before, when we actually put up a strategy in place and where we actually focused on organizing GATE classes, this number shot up to plus 80. From 20 students, IUST produced 80 GATE qualifiers, and most of them have gone to the top institutions of the country. Likewise, in most of the departments, engineering departments, there was no PhD. This year, we are offering PhD programs in all the 7 engineering departments. So that's another, important parameter which has already helped, but which is going to help us in the long run up. Because when we are doing NIRF ranking, the research component, is very, very important where an institution has to score. I'll pass on to you again, and maybe in the second round, we'll come up with some more observations. Thank you.
That were some good insights by Professor Moon. I hope you will factor in the suggestions by Professor Sufyan Beg and Professor Neeraj Misra and plug in the gaps which we have identified. So I'll move to one of our own, Mr. Akif Mufti. He is an alumnus of Islamic University of Science and Technology and currently at the University of Toledo. So I'd like to ask Mr. Mufti that we have seen India's top institutes having some reservations with the international rankings. My friend Arib pointed it out that 7 leading IITs, including IIT Kanpur, they have decided not to participate in the Times Higher Education rankings for this year, 2020. So what is the perspective of the universities in the West? How do they see these rankings? How serious are they about their ranks? So we would like to know about their perspective.
First of all, assalamu alaikum to everyone, and I'm thankful to the IUST Students Alumni Council for having me in the panel discussion. Now, talking about the ranking system, QS and Times Higher Education is not the only ranking system we have. There is another which we call as ARWU, or otherwise known as Shanghai ranking system. Now, the point worth noting about all these ranking systems are the metric or the yardstick with which they gauge the performance of the university. They are different. Like all the people that adhere to or accept the ranking system, for example, let's say QS or THE or Shanghai, they have disagreement with each other. So that means the parameters that decide the ranking or the overall score of the university, they are different. Now, they are particularly targeted towards different audience. Let's say you are a student you just finished your school and you want to enter into a university. So the best source to look at will be the QS ranking. And then we have Times Higher Education ranking, which is for someone who has just finished his college and wants to get into higher education, wants to pursue his master's or doctoral or postdoc. And this ranking system lays more emphasis on research. I mean, it is somewhat balanced, like it takes part of perception into consideration, and QS ranking is entirely based on perception, where you take into consideration the academic peer review and the employer reputation. And then ARWU ranking or Shanghai ranking system is entirely research-based. You do not take into consideration anything related to the student experience. Now, having said that, I just gave you an overall simplistic overview of how these three ranking systems function. But despite that, you will see the top ranking institutions always pop up in the top list of all these three universities. Now, I will agree to what Dr. Sufyan said, that this process, which we call as the ranking process, is comparatively new to the entire history of these universities. For example, if you look at Oxford University, that has been here from almost a millennium. And same is the case with other Ivy League universities, such as Harvard, Stanford. So they did not let this process control them. I would say they, in fact, controlled it. So what's in them that separates them from the rest? It's first, I would say, internationalism, the diversity in the faculty. They hired the topmost, the smartest people in the faculty. And then same is the case with the students, where it depends upon the acceptance rate, and people all over the world are just trying to get their admission in these top schools. And then they have the age-old tradition of research. Research is basically the building block of the university, which not only has been there for centuries, but it also has contributed to their what you call as the repetition. So these are some of the factors. And apart from that, they have this culture of endowments, where alumni contribute to the financial support, where different research organizations contribute to the financial support and things like that. I think I will stop here. Maybe I will add more in the other when you'll be asking me some more questions.
Thank you very much, Akif. We were not knowing about the new ranking system that you have just introduced. So we hope someday IUST will feature in these lists also. So I would like to come back to Professor Moon. So just briefly, what should we expect from IUST in the coming years? Should we be moving up the ranks, or at least retain what we have already achieved? What are the steps? What are the gaps you have identified, and how do you intend to fill them? Briefly.
I have critically examined, all the 5 parameters which are actually used for NIRF ranking, and then also, some of the subheads. I find that even now, if IUST had actually applied under engineering category, I'm sure it would have figured itself, close to 100. But somehow, we did not apply under the engineering category, but we only applied under the general university category, where we broke for the first time. Now, IUST has become a quality conscious university in the sense that, NAC visit is due. So people are preparing for that. Engineering departments are trying to get their BTech programs accredited for NBA. So again, a whole lot of exercise is going on. There are certain, things which IUST has to take care of. The first one is the faculty requirement. Now, if you see 2-3 years back, the ratio between the permanent faculty members and the contractual faculty members was of the order of 30:70. 30% permanent, 70% contractual. Over the last 2 years, what has happened is this ratio has not exactly reversed, but currently we have around out of 284 positions, we have around 231 in place, which includes both regular as well as contractual. So the ratio right now is 60-40. And we have already advertised and we hope to get around 72 positions filled up of the level of professors, associate professors, and assistant professors. Though unfortunately, the problem is, in this part of the world, it becomes very difficult to fill up the position of a professor. That's why, that has been a major, stumbling block for IUST to move forward and get, let's say, NBA accredited. So that's one factor, which has to be accounted for. Second is obviously the research component of it. If you look at the IUST for the last 2 to 3 years, this was probably the weakest link for IUST. It did not actually venture into the research so aggressively as it should have, because of obvious reasons. There was no permanent faculty, there was shortage of infrastructure, there were no research scholars. Now, all these 3 issues have been addressed too. That's why at this point of time, I mean, I was just talking to one HOD, he said, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, in the last 2 to 3 months of COVID, the department has been able to publish 6 journal papers, including IEEE and in Scopus and Text journals. So that shows the trend. There are around 50 projects, research projects, which are sponsored either through TQIP or through some other agencies. So there are 50 faculty members along with the research scholars who are actually working on 50 R&D projects. We saw last time, as I said, we are implementing TQIP project also. And there also we are benchmarked against other institutions. And IUST, you'll be glad to know that IUST was, got the first, was slotted within the first 10 institutions, what were known as the high performing institutions across India. There were 161 institutions and IUST got into first 10. Because of the collaborative research scheme project that we grabbed, because of the workshops, seminars, because of the internships that we did, because of this, performance of the students in the GATE and other placement initiatives that we did. One thing which, if I had to flag out, what needs to be done, that is we have to improve upon our perception. Now, this is something which is more of a PR exercise. I recently heard that one of the vice chancellors of the university, he actually sent whole team to different cities and they organized road shows to improve the public perception of that university. So this is where, people like Professor Sufyan, our own alumni, Dr. Mufti and Professor Misra, we'll have to use their good offices and we have to use their, advices also as to how the public perception of IUST will improve. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Professor Moon. I think on the last point you mentioned about the perception, I guess IUST Alumni Council will have a big part to play. So I'll move to Professor Misra. Professor Misra, now that we have adopted the ranking framework, the NIRF ranking framework, and we are going to stick to it for some time, it will not go away. So we have to stick to it for some time. What do you suggest IUST? I guess you are not familiar with the work environment of IUST, but any state university, any publicly funded state run by any state government, what would be your suggestion to such a university to improve their rank or to move up in the trajectory?
So my one very important suggestion would be, which may look at the first place a difficult thing to do, but I think if IUST succeeds in doing it, the perception may really improve a lot. You see, if you look at a lot of the institutions in country, including IITs, if one has to critically, of course, one can feel very proud about IITs that they have produced one of the best graduates in the world. But if one has to critically analyze the role of IITs, there's also a lot of criticism, as Professor Beck said, about IITs, what they have contributed to the society. Now, when I try to critically analyze everything is that Nehruvian vision for modern India was very good on papers. It created top technological institutes like IITs, then it had ITIs, polytechnics, and then simultaneously the industrial growth in the country. My perception is that possibly what happened is by 70s, IITs and other technological institutions had grown much faster than the industry. So the graduates of IITs didn't have a place in the country to really contribute. And that's the reason why possibly they moved towards the West. And that trend continued and possibly still continuing. Whereas I feel a perfect thing to do would have been around 70s. One doesn't have to look to the West for innovations. I think a country like India offers enough opportunities for innovations. So my advice to IUST would be to contribute something to the society in terms of providing technological solutions to very minor needs of your neighborhood. You may be having few villages in your neighborhood. Don't dissociate yourself from your neighborhood. They might have very trivial kind of issues or trivial kind of problems, and they may be looking for some technological solutions. So if IUST can really contribute to providing those technological solutions to these villages around them, that would not only bring in a lot of innovation within IUST, because then you will go and see the outside world and see what kind of problems are there, and then you'd be in a position to innovate. Now, going for a publication-based research is important because that makes you to generate a lot of knowledge. But in the process, what happens is when you blindly start doing it, in fact, you blindly start falling into the trap of the West. You start doing their second-hand research because you don't do the first-hand research, and you feel very proud by getting few papers in IEEE or this thing. I'm not trying to undermine their importance, but what I'm saying is if perception has to really improve, then one has to finally start with a society-based research in your neighborhood. And if you do that, in the process, you'll get a lot of innovations. Your student body is going to benefit. You're going to get real good research problems. So that would be my one advice if your university or institute can succeed in doing that. Second thing is, as Professor Moon said, that institute is really spending a lot of resources and manpower in trying to improve the rankings. As I said in the beginning, in my opening remarks, that whatever you say, your perception is partially going to be based on your rankings also, because outside words, it's very easy to look into the Google and see what are the rankings, and then they see where a particular university stands. So you cannot totally ignore the rankings. They are going to remain over there. So one has to work on simultaneously on that aspect also. So the few of the things which university like you, which may have a limited resources because of being a state university, one should try to take maximum advantages of various schemes like TechUp, which you're already taking an advantage of, various schemes of DST, SERB, encouraging faculty to go for a lot of projects which SERB and DST offers. So it has to become a part of a culture for the faculty to really aim for these grants. Because if you have a grant, automatically your research output is going to increase. And second thing is, I know that's difficult because of the location of the institute, the diversity which is within the institute. Now, I'm a firm believer, especially in the undergraduate studies, it's only the 30% or 40% of the education which takes place inside the classrooms. The remaining 60% of the education takes place outside the classroom, which is through interactions with your peers and your other colleagues. Now, that education is very fruitful if you have a lot of diversity within the campus. So I would just stop with these are small steps. I feel that if you bring in it and closely follow what various parameters and try to take out the university from the comfort zone, because you see what happens is many times we go into our comfort zone, we feel that we are doing good and everything is going well. But these parameters or these rankings are indicators that tell you that you have to come out of your out of your comfort zone to do something different. So one has to critically analyze various components of these rankings so that one can further improve upon them. Yeah, so
Thank you, Professor Mishra. It's very encouraging to hear your words. Also, let me add to whatever you had said in terms of giving back to the community. Recently, the Design and Innovation Lab, IUST, actually came up with a low-cost ventilator. It's still in baby steps, in its baby phase, but we are slowly getting there. We have that in mind, that we need to get back to the society. Thank you so much. Moving on to Professor Beg. Professor Beg, you've been to IUST a few times, I believe, and and are familiar with the kind of infrastructure and resources we have in that place. And given that anecdote you shared about being the Rolls Royce, what do you suggest that IUST should be doing on priority, having heard what Professor Moon had outlined, what we have been doing and what we plan to do in order to, make ourselves, if not global leaders in terms of university education, but at least known in the level that, we deserve. Professor Beg.
Yeah, I'll begin this round. I'll come to what you have said, Arif. But before that, briefly, I'll touch upon a point that has come twice: participation in rankings, because that is the thing that we started with when we asked Professor Misra, and then Akif also brought it up, participation in ranking. What our viewpoint on this is, we thought over it. Quite a few rankings are there, so we thought at AMU whether to go for every ranking or what. Then a very good suggestion came. It came that even though we may not be faring well in quite a few rankings, but that will be an opportunity for us to prepare ourselves. Right? There was this Atal Innovation Ranking. So people were a little, apprehensive whether to go for it or not. But then a strong word came that let us go for it. So that this will be an opportunity for us to do the SWOT analysis, and then whatever are the shortcomings, we'll improve ourselves upon. So that way, participation in ranking is going to help us. As I said in the beginning, that will be the means to the end and not the end in itself. Now, I'll connect with my previous round. I talked about vision, and you brought it up also, Arif, again. Now, see, vision is something. A vision is not a good enough vision unless people call you crazy about it. It is a vision only when people call you crazy about it. Now, how about saying a Nobel Prize at IUST? Why are you smiling? When I say a Nobel Prize at IUST, why don't you think about it? When you have set that vision in front of you and you start working on it, inching towards it, many things will come on the way. There will be a day when a Shanti Sarup Bhatnagar award will come. Other, awards will come on the way. And a day may come when, a Nobel Prize might land up at IUST. But it should not just be a vision. Let there be a mission statement also. Let there be a three-dimensional approach. Every year, all the Nobel Prizes that are awarded in the different fields hold a lecture at IUST about what that Nobel Prize is all about, why that Nobel Prize is awarded. For that, one of the faculty members from IUST might apprise the entire audience why Nobel Prize is awarded this year in physics, what work has it been awarded for in medicine, what work has been awarded for economics, and so forth. If you're not able to do it at your university level, get your alumni to do it for you. If that is not possible, let the alumni connect IUST with such professors abroad or within India who can tell you about what that Nobel Prize is all about. So let that be the first approach, right? And then let people start working. Now that motivation will come. That motivation will come. People will start working. Their research level would go up. Again, a very good lesson that I learned recently, there's this prestigious LEAP program, Leadership for Academicians program by MHRD. So I was fortunate to be a part of one such program. There was 2 weeks training within India and a week's training abroad. So we went to Ohio State University at Columbus last September. You know what? In Ohio State University at Columbus, they have their 30% budget for innovation and only 70% for maintenance. 30% budget is for innovation, 70% for maintenance. And not just that, they are thinking to reverse this. 70% should go into innovation and 30% should go into innovation. So that is the kind of broad thinking that they are doing. Now the concrete steps: appoint a few research faculty. When I say a research faculty, that there be two categories: the teaching faculty and the research faculty. Both of them will do teaching and research, but their thrust will be different. Their focus will be different. For the teaching faculty, he or she has to have the best feedback from his students, the best teaching approach and so forth. For the research, he has to produce patents, he has to produce papers, he has to get funded projects, he has to do all the research aspects, because everybody may not be good at everything, right? So let a few faculty members be appointed as research faculty while they do teaching also. Just as teaching faculty also do research, research faculty will also do teaching, but their focus points will be different. Also, let there be the academic audit. We do go for financial audit only because that is something which is necessary. Let there be academic audit, which the best institutes do. I'm sure all the IITs, Mr. Misra will approve me, all the IITs, they carry out academic audit. All the central universities, they carry out academic audit. And they have even gone beyond. They do, energy audit, they do green audit. So, all those audits are going to help us to do the self-analysis as to where, before any accreditation or ranking agency come onto our head, why don't we examine ourselves? You know that there is one hadith which says, "Apna hisab lo qabl iske ki tumhara hisab liya jaye." So let us take our own account before we are being accounted by a ranking or an accreditation agency. This OBE that Professor Moon, outcome-based education, Professor Moon talked about, in fact, this is a very good system if we adopt it in its true spirit. In outcome-based education, you set the bar first and then you try to cross it. That is what outcome-based education is. Our approach is that I'll take a high jump and whatever jump I'll take, you measure it. Is that how athletics go? You set the bar. Is that how weightlifting goes? That I'll lift and then you measure how much no, you have to set the weight, you have to set the bar, and then you try to lift it and you stretch yourself in order to achieve that. So that will be the outcome-based education. If you really focus on that, that will help you in accreditation, that will help you in ranking. Last but not the least, the perception that you're talking about, I'm pretty sure that 90% of it should come from the alumni. Their share in perception is very important. Those alumni, they have to contribute a lot when it comes to the perception. Professor Sufyan Beg, why should he care about the perception of IUST? Professor Misra, why should he care about the perception of IUST? But the alumni have a lot at stake. It is a different thing that will definitely help you, but I'm just putting it, bluntly, that it is the alumni who have got a lot of things at stake. So you guys have to really push in when it comes to, raising up the perception for the institute. So I'll stop here. I'll give others the chance.
Thank you so much, Professor Beg. Inshallah, we'll have a Nobel from IUST soon, hopefully, and I'm sure Professor Moon is taking notes at the same time.
Oh.
Moving on to Mr. Mufti. So, Mr. Mufti, as an alumnus of IUST and as a student of a university in the West today, what are the stark differences you have observed, in the working environment of the two places? What do you think, IUST should do in its place in the near foreseeable future, the short-term or the long-term goals to achieve?
While others have already expressed their opinion and shared their suggestions related to higher education, and while I also believe that compared to all the world universities and rest of the popular universities in India, that Islamic University is still in its infancy relatively. I would like to focus on what we can do about the undergrad programs and what we can do within the confines of the university. So I will just try to juxtapose these two entirely different worlds. Where, for example, the bigger problem is the syllabus, the curriculum we have in Kashmir or anywhere in the subcontinent. We already have that traditionally defined syllabus, which has been there for 20 or 30 years. And no, there has been no update on that based on what's new. And the focus of the instructor or the professor while formulating that syllabus is to just focus only on the theoretical aspects of that and just finish it as a checklist. But here, when they are formulating a curriculum or formulating a syllabus, the entire freedom is given to the instructor. So instructor, for example, let's say two professors, Professor A and Professor B, both are teaching algorithm. It's not necessary like, given the fact that both are teaching the same subject, it's not necessary that they have the same syllabus. They design it according to what they think is new, number one. Number two, they design it according to what they think will make students have a proper grasp of the subject. And at the same time, practical knowledge is given the same kind of importance as the theoretical. Let me share something very anecdotal. Currently, the summer semester is going on. Then we have also fall semester. Next semester is the fall semester, and we also saw how COVID affected United States. So they have taken this into cognizance, where they know what if, God forbid, there is a second wave and things might get worse. So in fall semester, students are supposed to take certain subjects like digital logic design. And digital logic design has a lab. Right now we saw the paradigm shift, like all over the world. People started giving lectures online. But what about the practicals? They are supposed to come to the lab and do the experiments. So what they did is they prepared the department over here. They prepared a quote of cheap DIY equipment, do-it-yourself equipment, where they had a replacement for, let's say, a digital logic analyzer, which costs few bucks. Same with the like oscilloscope and power supply. So they are asking us, the TAs, to basically redo those experiments, which the students were supposed to do in the lab, and update the lab manuals. So they will be updated online, and at the same time, we have to confirm that all of these, DIY equipments are working properly, and they are preparing, lab kits for each student, and they will be shipping them to their homes, and they will be performing those experiments in their homes. So this is how important the practical knowledge is there. And to us, it's like something peripheral, something secondary, if we take into consideration the overall culture of Kashmir or subcontinent in general. So these are some of the aspects where they make a difference. Other than that, they always lay emphasis on what we call as plagiarism. For example, plagiarism also creates the sense of originality, where it's taken too seriously that if someone is found to plagiarize while doing their assignments or submitting their lab manuals or projects, they issue a warning. So these are some of the aspects that I think are very discernible, and this is what makes the Western university different than the universities in subcontinent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Akif, for these wonderful insights. So we have some questions for our panelists from our audience. So this question is for Professor Misra. That in the recently released QS rankings, we have seen a lot of foreign universities, and Indian universities have quite a bit slipped in the rankings. So why is it so? The question is from one of our audience members.
See, I think it would not be fair to compare a lot of these top US universities directly with Indian universities or even IITs. Look at the funding of MIT and look at the funding of the IITs, right? There is a comparison, right? So I think it should not be fair. What should be asked is if IITs or any Indian institutions are lagging behind in their mandate, that would be a fair comparison rather than just blindly comparing Stanford, Harvard, or these top places. Because there are so many parameters, and I think it's not fair just to compare them on few parameters. So there has to be a holistic comparison rather than just comparisons on few components. So, having said so, I'm not saying that we should be complacent. We should certainly try to improve the rankings. But more important is that we should also try to do full justice with the mandate given to us. Rankings should be a byproduct of achieving those mandates rather than just giving too much weightage about all the time to ranking. We should not forget the mandate given to us. That is also very important. And then the limited resources we work with. So in nutshell, what I would say is comparison is not fair. If you try to compare Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard with any of the institutions in IT, then you compare the budget also which is allocated, right? The kind of equipments which are available over there and the kind of equipments for which are ordinary faculty. I'm sure even in IITs things are not so rosy. IUST also faculty has to do a good research, especially those who are working in experimental areas. There has to be equipment, right? So, but slowly within the resources available, one has to do its best.
Thank you, Professor Misra. Thank you. The next question is directed towards Professor Sufyan. So the question is, we know what kind of the uncertain environment IST thrives in, given what has been going on in the valley in the past years, and it has been adversely affecting the academic calendar. So given this scenario, won't it be better for the university to put its major focus on making the university fully residential? More so when the university, this is a very long question. I'll just quickly summarize it. How much does being residential affect the university output?
That is probably a policy decision which the administration of the university might be looking into. But what my take is that making it residential is going to help the students. It is not going to help the researchers. The research has to come from the faculty members mainly and from the graduate students. I'm not sure how many are the graduate students that are there, registered with the IUST. Had it been the case of IITs or ISC, where you've got a sizable, number of graduate students, then those graduate students definitely being residential is going to help, because they can come to the labs in the evenings, they can spend the nights in the labs. But the undergraduate students, many of them, they'll not be doing research. So making them residential may not help the ranking that much, going up. But definitely it will be a convenient thing for the students and might invite better students to take admission. That is a different story. But overall in research, only the graduate student being residential is going to help you.
Thank you, Professor Sufyan Beg. We have a question for Professor Moon, that if the university has signed MOUs with many national and international institutes, then why don't we have student exchange programs for our university?
Before I come to this question, I'd like to come back to the previous question, which was about the residential facilities at IUST. I also, as one of the faculty members of IUST, feel it strongly that we don't have a residential university. But at the same time, those who are associated with the IUST know that already accommodation has been built up for girls in the form of the girls' hostel. And currently, there is huge construction going on. About 8 to 10 buildings are coming up, which include hostels also, particularly boys' hostels, which is estimated to cost it around over 10 crore rupees. So all this funding is coming, as part of the RUSA grant, which the IUST would be getting from the MHRD. There are a lot of other constructions, and like new library block is coming up, new student corners are coming up, library block and auditorium is being renovated. Now, IUST has, signed MOUs, and there has been some, it's not that there has not been any exchange, especially Department of Management, I know, did send their students to Malaysia last year, and there was a healthy and a fruitful exchange of IUST students. But again, it comes to, how seriously when we sign an MOU, we are very enthusiastic that time, signing of an MOU with a good institution, with a good university. And we draw a whole lot of, charter, what are the activities which we would try to cover up within the MOU. But I'm sorry to say that when it comes to the implementation, implementation is found lacking. It doesn't happen only with the IUST, but, it happens everywhere also. Again, we have to look at the residential facility not from the point of view of research scholars only. In Kashmir particularly, we have a whole lot of problems wherein a student fails to actually come to the camps because of various reasons. Buses at times cannot fly. They find a whole lot of issues while going back, to their homes. There's a lot of traveling time involved, though IUST, has a good fleet of buses, but even that would be found insufficient at times. So I strongly favor that IUST should be 100% residential university, which will help undergraduates to be more punctual with their classwork, to have good academics around, as well as for the research scholars and research guides.
Thank you, sir. I actually have a question of my own to ask. I am also a pass out of the Islamic University. So at the time, it was propagated, and the PR was like, we are trying to make the students employable. So the thing was, it was focused on making the pass outs who are more relevant to the industries. Given that the employability of a pass out in India is somewhere between 12 to 15%. So the MNCs or whoever hires them have to train them on their own. So now with the experts speaking, we spoke heavily of research. So do you think the policy should shift from, making people who work for jobs and focus more on research and see the jobs as a byproduct in the long run eventually?
Is it for me or?
Sorry, for you, yeah.
Okay. See, I said in the beginning that I was going through the records and going through the different forms that have been filled up by IUST. And I was looking, particularly at the employment, column. For 2016 and 17, IUST reports employment of only 3 students. And only 3 students have gone for the higher studies, which is not true. When we actually went to the, government, who are actually government recruiters, for example, Service Subordinate Selection Board or Public Service Commission Board, or even J&K Bank, they gave us a whole list of IUST students. All these organizations are in fact flooded with the IUST pass out. The only issue is that we have not been able to capture the record. We have not been able to document the record properly. So that's why it calls for an overall overhauling of the placement, cell that we have within the IUST. In fact, the placement officer has to act at the departmental level. He has to coordinate at the school level, and then all the records have to be, collated at one place so that IUST comes up with figures which are realistic. I mean, not God forbid, any kind of fudge figures, but we are not, unfortunately, able to even report what we have achieved. That is the issue. That's why if you find now the difference in the data that IUST submitted this year and the previous 2 years, you'll find there's a whole lot of change because we have been now able to capture the record properly. For example, I told you out of 496 pass outs, IUST is reporting 300 students who have either gone for higher studies, which is a substantive number, 150, and 150 have been able to, have been able to get some kind of a placement. The only problem with, as a Kashmiri, I must admit it, that once we call the companies from outside, and whatever logistics is to be provided, whatever efforts need to be done, we do all those things. A boy gets selected through a rigorous selection process. He goes out, joins the company. Within 3 months, he feels homesick and he comes back. And then we have to cut a very sorry figure. I mean, there are then companies who outrightly say that they're going to blacklist IUST. I mean, why so many students have actually come back? What was the reason? They were paid off well. They had a very good career, but still they are feeling homesick. So this kind of change in the mindset of a student, be it IUST student or from any other institution within the Kashmir, that has to change. I mean, he has to be mentally prepared to take up a job anywhere, provided it is to his liking.
Probably they miss the Kashmiri food, which is the best. I remember your
Vazwan is served all across India now. I mean, in Delhi,
no. The quality is not the same.
Okay, maybe we have to now ship Kashmiri chefs also to Aligarh and other places.
Yeah. That will increase your perception.
So maybe we can start a course on cookery.
Cookery also. Online courses on cookery. Good.
Thanks a lot, everyone. I would like to, under 1 minute, I would like to ask concluding remarks from everyone, starting from Professor Neeraj Misra.
Yeah, so I would say all the best to IUST, and I am sure that with your sincere efforts, you are going to do a lot better next time as far as NIRF rankings are concerned. And otherwise as well, you are going to do well, because I see very enthusiastic team of young faculty members, and that would keep you going. So all the best.
Thanks a lot. Professor Sufyan Beg.
I'm really, very happy that you guys started the brainstorming so quickly after the NIRF results are out. In fact, an hour and 15 minutes have gone past so fast. I wanted to focus more on, the involvement of alumni in the ranking. But I'll say that I have a lecture on managing alumni relations that I've shared with Professor Moon already, and it is on YouTube also. Managing, in fact, there are 4 lectures that I'll suggest everyone to go through hurriedly, if not the complete thing. One is on managing alumni relations. The second one is on forming, formalizing, and sustaining collaborations. Somebody asked this question, right? So it is forming, formalizing, sustaining collaborations. And then the third one, which is relevant, is research with impact. And the fourth one that is also relevant is outcome-based education and quality assurance. So, all these 4 lectures are very pertinent to the panel discussion that we had today. So they're all uploaded on YouTube. I'll request all of you to go through it and try to get more insight into what we think at the Aligarh Muslim University and what the world thinks about these different aspects. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks a lot. Professor Moon.
Well, I have said in the beginning that IUST has become a totally student-centric university where everything revolves around the needs and requirements of a student. I'm reminded of a couplet which says that जुगनों को दिन के वक्त उड़ाने की जिद करें, जुगनों को दिन के वक्त उड़ाने की जिद करें, बच्चे हमारे अहद के चालाक हो गए. And this is all for IUST students. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That was very inspiring. Mr. Akif Mufti, your concluding remarks.
While this showing up in the NIRF ranking is something to celebrate about, but I mean, you, Asim and Arif, we know that we started at a time when we were fearing that whether we would get a proper BTech degree or not, because Islamic University was not AICTE recognized. And now we have come up to this level where people have participated for excellence, knowingly or unknowingly. So I must say that this is something to celebrate about, and to see Islamic University grow to this level is really very inspiring. Yes.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Asim, if you permit me, I'll try to match up, the couplet Professor Moon said to wrap it up. In fact, this is a very standard, jawab shikwa, stanza. सफ़ेद दहर से बातिल को मिटाया किसने, नौ इंसानी को गुलामी से छुड़ाया किसने, मेरे काबे को जबीनों से बसाया किसने, मेरे कुरान को सीने से लगाया किसने, थे तो आबा वो तुम्हारे ही मगर तुम क्या हो, हाथ पर हाथ धरे मुंतज़िरे फरदा हो. So I'll conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. This was really a wonderful discussion. So I would like to thank everyone for taking the time and for your valuable inputs. Despite having preoccupations, Professor Misra, Professor Moon, they had to adjust their schedules for this discussion. I'm indebted for that, and we hope it will have an impact on our long-term goals for the university, for IUST. And I would encourage, through this platform, I would encourage all the stakeholders of IUST, which include the alumni, the current students, the faculty members, teaching, non-teaching staff, everyone in the IUST family, that they should go an extra mile and remain engaged and constructively contribute to the progress of this university. And the IUST Alumni Council, it is an initiative in this regard, and I hope this will be a worthwhile effort. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.